What's going on, everyone? My name is Jeff. So let's talk about LYFT stock, guys. I featured LYFT on my 3 stocks to short for April 2019 video. I do think at these values, LYFT is a little bit overvalued. And right now it is roughly $10 to $15 over its original IPO price. And if you want to go off history, usually the bigger the IPO is and the more initial market cap it tends to eat up, the more opportunities there is to buy it down the road. And so what I really mean by that, guys, is that instead of being in a rush to go out and buy LYFT stock and think it is a must-own stock, you gotta have it in your portfolio, all I encourage you to do is take a historical perspective on it. And that's really the only thing I'm basing this opinion on, is history, okay? Some of the really small IPOs that don't get a lot of the hype, like a Square or a Roku stock, they sometimes get to their first earnings report and surprise the world and take off running, and it's a while before they find a pause button. But just keep in mind, LYFT came onto the market with a very big market cap. We're gonna talk about some of the recent findings, and to do so in hopes of answering the question, should you be shorting LYFT stock here at these prices? Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future updates or content, and feel free to drop a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. Any and all support is appreciated. So let's do a very brief historical look at LYFT stock, guys. It was to come on the market on March 29th, 2019, and its original IPO price was set between $62 and $66 a share, then was later upgraded to around $72. And then by the time LYFT stock hit the exchange, it was trading at $87, okay? So it immediately took a nosedive basically from where the stock opened at, and the share price fell from 87 all the way down under $70 a share, finally catching its breath around $69, ticking up very minimally to $70.50, finding another bottom around $66.94, and then has pretty much traded up ever since and is currently resting at $74.30. But the stock did move on this article that was published by Citron Research. Now, let me make a disclaimer really quick. I am a fan of Citron Research, and what I mean by that, guys, I enjoy their content. I always like to take in their perspective, but in no way, shape, or form does that mean I agree with everything they publish. As a matter of fact, I find myself disagreeing with a lot more stuff than I do agree. But I do like the fresh perspective, and I do like some of the points they bring to the table, even though I find a lot of them very contradictory. This newest article they just published, where they said that LYFT is the amateur short, and that shorting disruptive companies that dominate a mega trend simply because they lose money is a sure way to go broke. Let's dive into this article. So right here, the very top paragraph, guys, I think that says a lot about where they stand on LYFT, that they're saying this is not a trade. The principal of Citron has been an investor in LYFT for already 2 years, and they increased their position in the open market. So they got in on the pre-IPO side, so there is no telling what kind of cost basis they are even sitting at, and they've actually added to their position, and they could have added to it on a 1 or 2% scale. We do not know. We do not know any of that information. We do not know what cost basis they have, but we do know that they are emotionally invested into LYFT stock at this point, being that they've held it for 2 years already. It goes on to say that over the past 25 years, we have shorted more stocks than anyone. Reading this article, from Wayfair to HubSpot to our initial short in Tesla, most all bad recommendations had one common theme. And guys, I can appreciate that level of honesty. Go pull up the 5-year chart on Wayfair or HubSpot, and you will quickly see there is really no opportunity anyone would have had to ever short those stocks and make any real money on them. So, money-losing companies with high growth and large TAM. That's total addressable market. Goldman Sachs is expecting the ride-hailing industry to grow to $285 billion by 2030. Now, with that said, I will stop and interject my opinion on that. Yes, I absolutely think Lyft and Uber are going to be great investments, but at what price, guys? A couple of weeks ago, it was $62. Then next thing you know, it's $72. It opens on the market at $87. Where do we get a little bit of control on this thing? And also, where do you want your dollars going? Do you want to be holding the bag for a couple of years, or do you want to try and buy this stock when it is on sale? That is the question, and only time can really answer that question. And now they do go on to offer several reasons why you should not be shorting LYFT stock, but it has grown active riders more than 5 times from Q1 2016 to 18.6 million in Q4 2018. So there is no doubt LYFT has massive growth coming into this market, but keep in mind their advertising budget is so enormously high to try and compete and disrupt Uber. And that's the real thing why they're probably not going to be profitable for a while, is because every dollar made has to be spent on advertising. The percent of 18-year-olds using ride sharing is exponentially higher than the percent of 70-year-olds using this service. So obviously this appeals to millennials and young people, and that is where the trends are formed. And there are 13 million people in the US between the age of 15 and 17 years old. Over the next 17 years, there are over 73 million people who will turn 18 and turn to LYFT to get around. Now, with all these things we just read, I am going to have to agree that I think LYFT is going to be a great investment. I'm just not so sure LYFT is going to be a great investment right now at $75. Now I'm trying to skip through this so this video isn't overly long. They also mentioned that Uber is valued at 6 times LYFT's valuation at $120 billion, though LYFT is rapidly taking from Uber, with the US market share growing from 22% in 2016 to 39% in 2018, okay? So again, these are all very good reasons to invest in the stock. Let's just make sure we get that price right. That's what I'm saying. Let's get a little bit of an outlook on an article wrote by Fortune magazine, where they talked about shorting LYFT signs like a no-brainer. Plenty of investors seem to think so, as 41% of all LYFT shares worth $937 million were being shorted, according to S3 Partners Managing Director. And now this is something I highly agree with right here, guys. The very first sentence: there is more interest on being short in a popular IPO than a lesser known one. That is a point I made really early on in this video. And IPOs that are priced and pushed to pop on the first day, short sellers tend to capitalize on that over and over. The fundamental short sellers are going to come in behind that, claiming that the company is overvalued and placing a long-term bet that the stock will go down, without any proof, without proper earnings reports, just on a total hunch. Or maybe they're gambling on the fact that the market will correct, and these early IPOs are going to correct the hardest. And so outside of the first earnings report that LYFT will be putting out, there's basically 2 upcoming events that are important to this stock getting a boost or this stock falling down further. So roughly 25 days after an IPO, the so-called quiet period comes to an end. And that's when underwriters are able to come out and put ratings on the stock. So that includes Jefferies, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan Chase. And I also know from experience, it's usually a very lame duck rating. It will usually be hold or neutral or perhaps market perform, okay? You're not going to see an outperform rating. You're not going to see an underperform rating, because also, just like us, they have no idea what kind of fundamental numbers this company is really pushing. And then of course comes the lockup expiration period, and that comes about 180 days after the IPO. Guys, we just seen this with NEO a couple of weeks ago, and the stock lost some value. I actually made a video about that, warning people after the earnings report, don't be too overly zealous to buy, because the lockup expiration date was coming. And the stock did in fact dip down quite a bit more on that day. But if the owners of these shares do end up selling out, that can flood the market and it can depress the stock price further. And of course, shorts are going to come in and cover on their position and take their gains. And like I said, historically, which is what I'm basing my opinion on, that tends to be the case even with some of the biggest IPOs in history, like Alibaba, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. Guess what? People even sold their shares of Facebook stock 180 days after it IPO'd. Now, they look kind of silly now because Facebook has made so much progress since its IPO, but you also have to think about the prices that these banks and investment firms are getting stock at. They're getting these stocks much cheaper than the public is on IPO day. So with all of that said, guys, should you be buying LYFT at these levels or should you be shorting it here at these levels? And I'm going to say this, either way you go, there's going to be plenty of uncertainty working against you. I wanted to short LYFT on IPO day when it was well up into the 80s, and I think if this stock does make another quick run to $85, maybe $90 a share, That seems like a pretty for sure short sale to me. But the wisest of people and the people that are cautious with their money and don't make a lot of decisions are probably just going to sit on the sidelines and wait for about 180 days. That way you get an earnings report or two coming in, the lockup expiration dates have passed, and we can all kind of dig in and see what this company is about fundamentally. But if I have to make a guess, I still think that LYFT stock is going to go lower than $74 a share. But anyway, that's all I got for the video. Go down to the comment section, guys. Tell me, are you long or are you short LYFT here at $74? I really would love to hear your opinion. Thank you as always for watching the video and have a great day.